This conference will now be recorded.
Recording. Tuesday, July 5th, 2022 at the Town Hall at 4058 County Road N, Titusville, Grove, Wisconsin. At 7 p.m. we have a public hearing for the proposed revisions update of the comprehensive plan. I'll call the public hearing. Do you have a presentation first?
I do. Bring that up.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the people online can hear.
Good evening.
Just so we're clear, we're in the Plan Commission and the Town Board are convened right now.
They are both present for the public hearing.
Good evening. I'm Mark Roffers. I've been working as a town planner for about 10 years now. And I have a little presentation on the comp plan update to share with you. I've been working hard with the Plan Commission, of which you have two members that have cross-serve on the board for 18 months now on the plan update. And just kind of pick through this pretty quickly. If you move to the next slide. You all know this, but for review, a comprehensive plan is a guide for the growth and preservation of the town. It has a 10 to 20 year horizon. It provides the town's overall vision for land use, transportation, farmland preservation, and a host of other topics that are covered in the plan document. And it's also used on a day-to-day or month-to-month basis to help advise the Plan Commission and the board as to how to tackle rezones and other land use improvements that are being sought within the town. Why are we tackling the plan update now? First off, we had a noble goal of taking advantage of new census data as it became available. That's been a slow roll, to say the least, but we also have had new land use data from the county, the Regional Planning Commission, and other things to help us make smart decisions on future land use and other things. They also placed within the future town plan updates, which need to take place at least once every 10 years on a more logical 10-year cycle than tackling it sort of mid-decade as has been the past practice. Obviously, we're in a time of great change. It provided an opportunity for us to kind of take a step back and review and revisit the town's overall vision for its future in that period of change. And revisit more specific policies within the town plan document that will come up on rare occasion or frequent occasion as you look at development proposals like within the one for 35 farmland splits or what have you. And then the other reason to update the plan now, and one of the opportunities that we've taken advantage of, is to incorporate the changes that are warranted to bring the plan in alignment with the Madison Town intergovernmental agreement that was executed just a couple of months ago. So we were able to do that with this plan update. The plan is formatted in two separate volumes, as has been the case with the last version of the plan, the conditions and issues volume. The point of that one is to outline current conditions, trends, some projections for how much land the town may need to set aside for different types of uses and things like that. But that volume doesn't include any recommendations for the future. It's just intended as a resource for us and the commission and the board as we worked on the plan. And particularly the vision and directions volume, which is the second volume of the plan. That includes the overall vision and goals, initiatives for development and preservation of the town, and features a future land use map with policies for each of the categories of future land use that are shown on that map. As I mentioned, we've been working at this for some time now. Starting in winter of 2021, we kicked the process off with the Plan Commission, I believe, with the meeting in February of that month. We did a lot of this data collection and analysis that led to the conditions and issues volume. And then we began to review a draft of a community survey that was conducted in the spring of 2021. At the same time, we wrapped up that first volume in draft form, the conditions and issues volume, and share that with the commission at meetings during that time. In summer of 2021, we focused really on two things. One of those things was to reach out to owners of large property within the town. There were individual notices sent to everyone who owns 35 acres or more. We had a forum in this room, attended virtually and in person by a number of those landowners. And they were provided with an opportunity, like anyone who attended that public meeting, to suggest changes for future land use. And later that summer, the Plan Commission considered a handful of changes that were requested by property owners. And some of those got included on the plan map, some of those didn't, based on the Plan Commission discussion and deliberation. Also over the summer, as part of the scope of work that I reach out to folks from this nearby villages, the city, the county, WISDOT, to compare notes, to understand different plans and opportunities for collaboration, and then report back, those ideas to the commission, which we did. And that is typical of a planning process. Obviously, there's work that gets done in this room, and there's work that gets done outside of the room. And if that didn't happen that way, we wouldn't go very far very fast. So, but the Plan Commission was privy to those outcomes of those conversations. In the fall, we had a draft vision and directions volume that the Plan Commission reviewed and commented on. That was before the Madison intergovernmental agreement was finalized. A lot of that document was pretty much set, but the direction, I think a wise direction from the Plan Commission, is to call a timeout, allow that intergovernmental process to conclude, and then pick up the plan again once that happened. And that's what we did in spring of this year, is put together a revised vision and directions volume, and in particular focused on plan policy changes that related to the Madison intergovernmental agreement. And that was reviewed by the commission on June 1st. So during that process, we've had a number of opportunities for public participation. I will say that the general procedures for public participation and the process for updating the plan is laid out in the last plan, the one that's currently in place. So we have an implementation chapter, and that describes that for future amendments and updates to the plan, here's what we're going to do to involve the public. Now, there was a need to get more specific during this planning process to identify exactly what we were going to do based on the budget that was available and the things that we wanted to accomplish. And so in winter of 2021, we developed and shared with the Plan Commission a document called Meetings and Major Milestones, which laid out how we intended to involve the public, what we had hoped to do at each Plan Commission meeting, and how we expected to get from there to here. And like any process that lasts a little while, it was adapted and revised over time. So I think there were 6 or 7 different versions of that timeline. But we always had that posted on the internet and available for people to review during the process. So that was our detailed kind of guide for how to engage with the planning process and where it was going to go. And then we had a few other opportunities for public input. This community survey that I mentioned a little bit earlier, the land use forum for property owners of 35 plus acres. We had 7, before this evening, we have Plan Commission in attendance. We had 7 Plan Commission meetings to talk about different aspects of the plan update. Kim and I collaborated to get information available on digital sources that the town has at its disposal. We had all the plan information on our website, MD Roffer's website, linked from the town site, including always ways for people to input with the process when they wanted to and how they wanted to. And then, of course, we have the public hearing tonight, which is typically the last public step of the planning process, in which you're here to hear public testimony and consider potential changes to the plan. And we've gotten some public input already on the planning process. It was included in a memo that I shared with the commission, Kim did, and with the town board. And we can talk about what might come of that. The planning process, just from a substantive basis, reaffirmed the town vision statement that was included in the last comprehensive plan. I have it up here on screen right now. I won't read it all, but it refers to the challenges the town has and living at the edge of an expanding urban area and affected by municipalities that are growing very, very quickly at your edges, and tries to, in a very general sense, balance the different pressures that you have and to the extent possible, turn them into opportunities to the town for preservation, for limited commercial development and residential development in appropriate places. The plan document also features an amended future land use map. As I mentioned earlier, this is the visual depiction of the town's desired future land use. The version that's on screen now is what I'll call the latest version, dated June 29th. And it includes some potential changes near Madison based on public comment and further review that I documented in my memo to you. So the big changes that I'll highlight on this map, and you can see the current version that's been adopted, and amended a year and a half ago behind Chris here. The changes largely reflect an emphasis on continued farmland preservation, particularly in the eastern half of the town. They reflect an increased emphasis on commercial development at the interchange of Highway N and 12 and 18. They reflect some opportunities for residential development in the town with a particular priority on areas that are east and south of the village of Cottage Grove. And they reflect, lastly, the Madison Intergovernmental Agreement. So you can see on the new map, it's an olive green line close to the west edge of the town that reflects the potential Madison expansion area over the next 60 years that is in the town by intergovernmental agreement. And within that area, there are certain policies that apply that are consistent with the agreements that the town has made with the city. And we worked and continue to work on identifying land use, whether it was planned agricultural preservation or planned agricultural transition, that best reflected the plans of the different units of government and what those plans suggest for the next 15 to 60 years, with the idea being that if the land was planned for development in the next 15 years, 1-5, that under the farmland preservation law, it could not be within an agricultural preservation area. So that's the latest version of the map, the one that if you decide to move forward with the map would be the one that would be adopted by the materials that are before you tonight. Beyond that, the plan includes limited land use policy changes. One of the things we did, I didn't mention, is we worked to better match the future land use on the plan map with current zoning and current land use where there wasn't any great expectation for change. That was important to achieve greater compliance and make sure that the town doesn't go out of compliance with farmland preservation percentage rules that I'm happy to dig in the weeds with you later if you want me to. I talked about the land use options in the Madison expansion area. We still have RDUs based on 1 house per 35 acre standard. That has not changed. While there were tweaks to the TDR program, there were not major changes. There's still, for planned residential areas, a 8-to-1 ratio, as there has been for a while. We did quite a bit of analysis and discussion of that and stayed with that number. There are some differences in commercial development areas with revised policies to, along with your ordinances, achieve the desired quality in future commercial development. And so one of the things that has been kicking around for a while and we've worked on and included in the draft plan is a more specific plan for how development might occur within the area around the North Star Road corridor and the interchange of Highway 12 and 18. So this is a more specific plan for commercial development in that area. And there's more text in the plan that describes this. And finally, I'll note that the plan is not just about land use, it includes other programs. During the planning process, we had a chance to discuss all of them with the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission advised priority ratings for what might come first, second, third. They're reflected in this list. So they cover not only land use, but recreation, trails, roads, how the town might interact with DOT on the continued improvements to Highway 12 and studies related to that, and other matters. And again, happy to get into any of that. But at this point, I just wanted to provide that overview of the plan before you invited other public comment. And then I'll be happy to help with any discussion that there's after the hearing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a letter from Thomas and Julia Willem in July 5th that will include in the minutes. And we all have a copy of it. Are there comments, questions?
I just, reiterate what what the letter states is that, there's a lot of good things in that plan. I'm not trying to tear this plan down. I'm not trying to say that there's a lot of bad things. I just think that there's some things in this plan, and if we get enough people involved. First off, having only 8% of the population involved in potential future land use plans is crazy. It tells me that we haven't done a good enough job to inform the people that, hey, what is this all about? You need to be involved. And part of the involvement is in that survey thing. Once the intergovernmental agreement went through, then I think it's time to relook at some of those things, especially in our area. We looked at that map. The thing that set me off was when we looked at that map being changed for no reason. And we just feel that we need to take a little time out here, get a new survey together, and if need be, I'll volunteer to call all 3,700 residents of the town and let them know exactly based upon what the planning board and the board says, what information we want to give them. We want, if we're looking to preserve our town, which we all are looking for that, I believe that's why we went ahead and supported your intergovernmental agreement. And in order to do that, there's some things in this plan that we can do better to stop some of those things. Whether it's even for 15 years or 20 years. We all know that ultimately the city's probably going to absorb our corridor, but we want to stop it. We want to stop it for as long as we can. And we think that this comprehensive plan doesn't go far enough to protect our corridor. The people in zone 1 or zone A or whatever you want to call that thing, and we just ask that this board reconsider. And we're not asking that, we could have this thing redone in about 4 months, in my opinion. Most of the work's already done. I think we get a new survey out there. We get the people involved, get a new survey out there that represents the majority of the people, not 8% of the people. And I just think that this board needs to take a little time out and look at it. There's a lot of good things in it, but I don't think it goes far enough, and I don't think it represents enough of the people to be voted on to go ahead with it. I think that there's too many questions, as the letter states, and it's easier to pay Mr. Rolfers $100 an hour than to pay Mr. Cole $600 an hour to defend a lawsuit. And I'm not saying that I'm going to file a lawsuit. What I'm saying is that if you don't do something right, there's potential lawsuits down the road for other people. If somebody all of a sudden wants to do something, well, you can't do that. Our new comprehensive plan says you can't do that on your property. Well, nobody told me about no comprehensive plan, because once again, only 8% of the population of the town of Cottage Grove have been informed about it.
Well, Tom, just back on that, we sent that survey information to everyone in the township. They had to choose if they wanted to participate or not. We can't make them.
I'm not saying you can make them, but you can do more to inform them what it's all about. The one thing I've learned about zoning and planning and all that stuff, the least amount of information they tell you and the least amount of participation is the norm. They don't want nobody involved. They don't want, and what I'm saying is that let's give me an opportunity to get some people involved here. Give me an opportunity to sit down, get the public an opportunity to sit down, see what Dane County, Dane County didn't even follow our comprehensive land use plan when it came to rezoning our property. But so what's the whole purpose of having a comprehensive land use plan if the people in charge of planning and zoning that run our zoning don't even follow your own plan? And that's what I'm saying is that we have to look at this thing. I know you can't make them, but once again, I'm asking for an opportunity to get more people involved in this thing so they can understand exactly what's taking place. We know what Dane, we don't even know. I don't have no idea what Dane County's position is because I put an open records request in and they haven't supplied me any documents. I put open records requests into the city of Madison. They haven't replied and given me documents regarding what was discussed with Mr. Rofers. And I think that this board needs to reconsider this. And I've stated my objections to it. Y'all gonna do what you want to do, but I just think a timeout is easier right now than, I don't know what the big hurry is. Why everybody, maybe you're tired of 18 months of it, but I think that it needs to be revisited and some new things discussed. And we set this thing for about a 4 or 5 month review to get this thing approved, and I will help the board in their support if they give me a fair opportunity to represent me and my property and my family's property. So that's where I'm at on the deal. You got anything?
No, I think you said it.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to close? Oh, yes. Was there anyone online?
There are people online.
Do they wish to speak?
Up here, so. Looking at the list, I would guess the people that are on, I don't know if they're here for this or not. Rhonda Rogers, is that why you're here? I don't think they want to speak.
Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing? So moved. Motion by Duplay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Williams. On the motion to close the public hearing, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We have the Plan Commission is here. We have the forum present. Meeting was posted at the town hall and on the website. Town board order and stand for the flag pledge. Yes. Plan Commission and the town board.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Plan Commission discuss and consider adoption of Plan Commission resolution 2022-7-5.
To go through his memo at all, since that's what has changed since it was at the plan commission?
Yeah, why don't we?
Okay, so since the June 1st Plan Commission meeting, we have received a public comment from Mr. Willen. Actually, a couple of public comments from Mr. Willen. And in response to that comment, his initial comment was in opposition to a proposed change to the designation for his property that was in the version of the plan that the commission looked at on June 1st. And so he made some good points about what different plans said or didn't say about the lands along County Highway BB at the far west edge of the town. And so, right. And what I did is I, re-reviewed all the plans that affected really the entire area of the potential Madison expansion area, just to make sure, I got things right. And after that review, I thought there was more in favor of keeping the land along Highway BB west of Violet's Road in the ag preservation area than there was in the GD. Village of Cottage Grove plan doesn't identify that land for development, and no adopted city of Madison plan that identifies it for development. So that area that if you look at the version of this map with all I recommend the map that I have up on screen. My recommendation. One other small area at the far northwest corner of the town would also go back to ag preservation area. That's largely wetland in the Door Creek. Even partially obscured by my one of the things that I found when I did that, and I appreciated this, was that the boundary line I had drafted for the potential Madison expansion area or northwest corner of the town. So this is highlighted here on this map with all the markups. And again, the version of the map that I had up on screen really corrects that.
You're talking about very top left.
Yeah, it's in orange with an orange line here.
Correct.
That's the accurate area. I added this on in the first version of that map. So those were the changes. I did share the plan draft with the planners from Dane County, and the two villages and the city of Madison. I received no comments until today on the phone from Brian Grady with the city, and he had no substantive concerns, and he appreciated the town, moving forward to make its plan consistent with the agreement. So the memo or the resolution for the plan commission that's in the packet today would recommend town board adoption of the plan that was the version that the town plan commission saw on June 1st, with the exception of the map. The map would reflect the changes here and be that new map that was on my presentation earlier that's dated June 29th.
Right.
And that's referred to specifically in the resolution. That would be the adopted version of the map. And then continuing that on, the way this process goes is after a town plan commission recommendation, the town board would approve an ordinance to adopt the plan. And that ordinance similarly would adopt everything in the June 1st version, or the public hearing version of the plan, except the map. And the map would be the June 29th version. So, with that, again, happy to answer questions as you might have them on the plan before whatever action you want to take here tonight.
Planning Commission? Questions, comments?
Everything's been updated from our last meeting. Like the code.
Yeah, the only changes from the last meeting are a change to map 16, the future land use map, and then a related change to map 1, the jurisdictional boundaries map, because I had the extraterritorial jurisdiction for Madison incorrect in a similar way. So other than that, it's the same as you saw on June 1st.
Okay.
I did see a typo in there, listing the village instead of the town.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, that's on the second, third page.
I guess the question I have for the planning commission is where we talked about that, if you're within that quarter mile of the village, that property didn't need RDUs or residential development. Now, I guess, what did we mean by that? If we can be a little more clear on that. I guess my thought on what we meant is that a parcel that touches, that's within a quarter mile, that entire parcel was able to be developed if they choose without RDUs. That's what I understood. Rather than just going a quarter mile, maybe halfway into that parcel, and only that part is available for that, the rest isn't. Because I guess I thought when it comes time for annexation, they're going to take an entire parcel. They're not going to take part of it. What is your understanding or thoughts on how that should be defined better?
Well, if you had, there's the two parts where you mentioned having lands directly up against the boundary. They did come in just a quarter, my 0.28, that right? Okay, coming in. So then the village could sit there and take this little bit, and then you could develop another quarter, and you have to take that little bit. That's what I see possibility. That makes sense, rather than do the whole piece and then we go out and take the whole 40. That makes sense, or the whole section.
Well, I doubt that the village would only take part of a parcel. They would take
Take the whole parcel.
an entire parcel.
Right.
That
So-
quarter mile is the boundaries as of today, right? That isn't gonna move if they annex more.
That's correct. The idea was that no RDUs additional RDUs would be required to develop if the land is within a quarter mile of the current village boundaries.
80 acres?
What's that?
80 acres?
Depends on
Well,
what
see,
the
that,
size of the
that
parcel
confusing.
is.
Isn't that confusing?
No, what's the size of the parcel?
That's what I'm asking.
It could be different.
Well, we were just, it said, I'm just saying what it says here. So for example, an owner of an undeveloped 80 acres in a neighborhood development area greater than, it says 1/4, I presume that's 1/4 mile, right?
Right.
I thought it was a quarter acre or something. I didn't know what it was actually. That's why I was confused.
Where are you, Mike? I can
I'm
follow.
on page, what is it? Figure 8,
Which document?
31.
Which document are you talking?
Visions and directions.
Okay, 31.
Two-thirds of the way down for
The 80-acre example is, I see, so you're reading, so for example, owner of an undeveloped 80 acres in a neighborhood development area greater than 1/4 mile from the village of Cottage Grove as of July 5th, who acquired 2 RDUs from a tier sending areas allowed 16 housing units. Plus 2 additional housing units. So that provides the example of someone who's further away than 1/4 mile.
But if it's within that 1/4 mile,
So if you're over a 1/4 mile, you got to get RDUs.
yes.
But if you're within a 1/4 mile, you don't.
That was the town plan commission's discussion and direction.
What's your feeling about that? Is that rational?
The idea was that, is it rational? Yeah. I think the idea was that creating an added cost for property owners to develop within the town if they're close to the village may further incentivize them to annex and develop within the village. And requiring a acquisition of development rights from some other property is an added cost to those property owners.
And I guess I thought it might have them develop in the town and this then block further expansion of the village out.
But the question that's, I think, is being raised is, does all of the parcel have to be in? Does a majority have to be in a 1/4 mile? Does just a sliver have to be in a 1/4 mile? And right now, the plan is not specific on that.
Right.
Should it be clarified better?
Sure.
I think it must be, because I didn't understand it.
It makes, to me, it makes sense, like, you want to come in a 1/4 mile, but that's a 1/4 mile strip and that's it. That's all that gets affected by not having any RGU.
So you would split that parcel.
You'd have to, yeah. I mean, that's, I know, it's,
Well, what happens if it's 150 feet of that whole entire parcel?
I know,
I mean, it's not developable in that regard,
I don't
you
know.
know? And the thing is, using the 80-acre question that Mike brought up, even though it wasn't totally germane, the way I interpret it is that to develop 80 acres residential is going to take somebody with huge, very deep pockets to do that, which we have not seen here, you know, realistically a lot in the township, at least recently. So have the ability, if somebody wants to, if you took the whole parcel, that whole, even, that's even a stretch.
Yeah.
Say if it's a 40, I mean, you typically find a 35 or a 40. If that person decided to develop that, chances are, unless that person did have really deep pockets, it'd be piecemeal. But then I kind of like the idea of the ability to have some residential as a potential blocker for the village for their expansion. Because you know what it would take.
But you said you went to the village, Madison, everybody had talked about this. Did you talk about this with the village of Cottage Grove?
No, I shared the plan with them a month ago that included this provision, and I have not received any comments.
I went right by it. Somebody mentioned it. That's the only reason I saw it in there. And then when it said 1/4, I thought it was 1/4 acre.
Yeah,
Should say
that's a
1/4
typo
mile.
that I definitely need. I appreciate you picking that up. We definitely need to fill that in for clarity.
Well, using a 1/4 mile out is a start, but like you mentioned, no, having just a narrow strip is all it would be. I could understand that if you had it. Depending on the house.
Annexations can be point to point.
Yeah.
Why can't our plan reflect a similar ability as to what an annexation?
It'd be nice to see what that strip would look like on a plan. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe it would be further in, maybe somebody, it'd make more sense to be in,
But it, again,
yeah.
Steve, explain, how is there a strip?
what he's saying is, if you took, say my arm represents the western edge of the village of Cottage Grove, okay?
The village.
You come out, or excuse me, the village of Cottage Grove, okay? I've got a 40-acre parcel
Got it.
here that maybe starts an 1/8 of a mile away from the village, okay? What Troy's saying is that 1/4 mile would come out following the exact contours of the current village limits, which might only give you not enough land to develop.
But somebody owns that property.
Correct. And they would have to want it to develop it. But we're going to try, at least my opinion, is that we're going to give them the opportunity to develop it rather than just cutting that parcel down and you get whatever it is a quarter mile away, whether it's logistically possible or not.
Do you take and use the entire parcel, or do you split it exactly where that quarter mile ends?
I don't mean to open a can of worms, but couldn't you take that map, proposed conversion of it, and figure out what actually qualifies then? Knowing what the village limits are and what's in the neighborhood development area? Couldn't you eyeball that?
I don't want to see this being a secret and all of a sudden something comes up about this and the village goes ballistic. And obviously that happens all the time anyway.
Well, none of this would change the fact that the village has extraterritorial planning division review
So
authority.
what's the rationale in doing this?
If somebody's trying to do something.
Stay in the town.
Right.
It would automatically go to the village because they would have to otherwise.
The village would have to approve it.
So land division.
Yeah. So where's,
Like they did on Kennedy Hills.
yeah.
But those, that power isn't as great as it once had been, correct, Bill?
Plus the fact, say, Michael, what happens, let's take Vilas Hope Road. Okay, say the village limits is the backyards of all the houses on the east side of Vilas Hope Road, okay?
Got it.
If you took a quarter mile from those backyards, okay, and move that quarter mile out to the west side of Vilas Hope, where it's currently vacant right now, right, the village can't jump those houses right there to get to, they would still have approval authority. But again, there'd be some insulating factor of the ability to develop in the town without necessarily going into.
What's your interpretation of this, Bill? Is it logical? I mean, the way he explains it, yeah, I can see the explanation, but
I would certainly agree and recommend that we make a decision. Clarity is certainly best here for all property owners. Whether you make it, if any property touches that, the whole parcel is, or you draw it strictly by the line, legally doesn't matter. My personal view, and it's not really a legal opinion, is I tend to agree that it probably would be better to follow parcel lines as opposed to you just measure straight the quarter mile and then you have arbitrary lines cutting through parcels. I think it
Yeah,
makes
that's
more
what I
sense
just
to
think,
follow the existing parcel line, which would mean if any part of the parcel came within a quarter acre, the entire parcel.
Yeah.
Quarter acre, quarter mile.
I'm sorry, quarter mile.
can I ask how this came up in the first place? Was that from you or from somebody just said, hey,
No.
quarter mile, I think we should do this?
Came up at the planning commission as a way to possibly incentivize landowners that are close to the village, maybe consider their development in town versus annexing
After all these years?
after all these years.
Wow.
Better late than never.
Really?
And a quarter mile, Mike, is just, it's a quarter section length. So
Yeah, I got it. I understand it. It just seems to me seems immaterial.
Once the policy is created and defined as necessary, we can easily create a map and probably should because we know what the village limits are today that show which parcels qualify and which parcels don't.
I think that would be a good idea.
Policy or what limits do we want to put on it? Do we want to go by parcel line or simply quarter
Arbitrary. Whoever decides that,
question?
the landowner decides that,
No.
the landowner
No,
decides.
we decide that.
Okay.
Of course, I'm on mute right now.
I guess my recommendation is parcel line. I'm speaking from plan and. What's that?
I thought that's what we kind of decided last time.
Never came down to being written. So now is our opportunity to be clear on what we meant.
So, all right. We go by the parcel line. Put a limitation on anything as far as the amount of acreage. Worry about that.
Well,
It is what it is.
I guess if you put a limitation on the acreage, then you're just giving them another reason, all of that. And do we want to do that or have them develop the whole parcel, whatever size it is?
Another question is, as we're dealing with this detail, and this goes back to maybe the 80 acres. One single owner owns 80 acres, and part of the nearest 40 is within a quarter
Yeah, it's a public
mile.
hearing.
The farthest 40 is further than a quarter mile.
Wait for my turn.
The whole ownership or just the tax parcel that's within
Just parcel
is the parcel?
is what I would think.
Yeah.
Just take
So
that,
base it on a tax parcel, not an
Yeah.
owner, not a contiguous ownership.
right. Information. Clarity.
I just suggest, so you would want to say if any part of the tax parcel is within a quarter mile, then no transfer development rights are required.
Not very
Tricky.
For any portion of the tax parcel.
Right.
So then if somebody somewhere else out in the township wants to buy development rights, they look at the ones that aren't gonna have to use development rights. Does that seem logical? It does.
Location,
Wouldn't if I
location,
was owner
location.
of a property somewhere else, it used to be that they had to get them if they were close to the village.
Right, and so we never had any development and they just said annex.
I mean, my point again is how are you gonna develop when the village can stop it?
They can't necessarily point blank stop it.
No, they don't have veto authority over it. That's correct. I mean, I see no, from a anti-annexation strategy, there's no downside to you in doing this. I think it assists the town in encouraging development within the town as opposed to annexing. And they have their extraterritorial authority, but it is not all encompassing. So
But that's a good thing for the town.
correct.
I'll wait to see that down the line.
So is there anything need to be added about sewer or anything like that, or is this, when they develop it? How many splits or anything they can have private well and sewer?
The presumption would be that if they were in the town, they would have,
Okay.
unless the village got really generous and extended those utilities without annexation.
So Mark, presumably there is if it's going to be on well and septic, that there is a minimum lot size it's going to have to be anyway, right?
Right, that'll be guided by the county zoning board and
Town plan.
densities.
Is there a motion from the plan commission to have that definition put into the plan?
You guys understand it too?
I think I do now.
Sure.
Didn't sound like you all did.
The change would be in figure 8, and there's a reflected provision in figure 6 if you want to refer to, where the change ought to be made. And then in addition to that, I would clean up
See if I can find
one
where
quarter
it
mile.
Who's ready to make? Is there a motion going to be made?
So the language that was said before
Right,
was
the way
if
we
any
were
portion
talking.
of a tax parcel is within a quarter mile of the current, as of today, village limits, parties are not required for any portion of that parcel. That's what was said earlier.
That sounds good to me.
Is that your motion?
That is the motion.
Motion by Mark, second by Mike for the Plan Commission. Any other discussion?
And that's in any ag transition or anywhere along the line.
So it's for figure 8 and figure 6, which is neighborhood development or ag transition.
Thank you. That's right.
Any other discussion from the Plan Commission? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Any other motions? You want to pass your resolution 2022-7-5?
I'd move approval of the resolution.
Motion by Anders, is there a second? Second by Myler to approve Plan Commission Resolution 2022-7-5.
And that would include then the change that you just made.
Change that we made and the 629 map.
Is this going to be an additional map? It's going to be required by.
No, I think, Mike, we would produce that map, but it would be just a resource that would be outside of the plan document.
Will now be recorded.
Any other discussion on the motion from the Plan Commission? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And, you see on my agenda? Oh, here it is. Okay. So Plan Commission did their recommendation to the town board. Does the Plan Commission wish to adjourn? Motion by Klinger for adjournment. Is there a second? Second by Troy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Plan Commission,
And good luck.
for all your work.
Good time to leave.
Yeah, LA
Glad I don't have to leave yet.
Moving on then for the town board, we have the minutes of the June 20th meeting.
Have a good night.
I'd move approval of the June 20th.
Motion by Anders, second by Saunders to approve the June 20th town board minutes as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstentions?
Aye.
One abstention. Motion carried. Finance report and approval of bills.
Hey, Dan, the culvert bill, Is that for all the culverts I've been seeing laying around? there?
Yes.
Wow. That's a lot of culverts. I mean, it's not much money for a lot of culverts.
It's a lot of money. It went up a lot this year. How
But-
much?
Well, I mean, we've got, what, 2 by me, 2 on Vilas, 2, I mean, they're.
That's only one culvert though.
No, what I'm saying is, I mean,
And 6 total culverts.
Yeah.
That's it. How much did it go up? $1,000 a culvert. Yes. $1,000 a culvert with the end walls and everything.
steel prices.
Third page.
I move approval of check 35,555 to 35,576 paid.
Motion by Duplay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Anders. Motion to approve checks 35,555 through 35,576 be paid. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. You also have in your packet the unaudited cash and investment balance of $2,596,586.56. And then you have the May per diems.
So
And you had a new,
with the addition to your pay.
Yeah.
Oh, second.
you need the motion by Anders, second by Williams, to approve the new June per diems. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
I just want to mention that our contract with Johnson Black is up this year, so I'm not sure if you guys want to throw out the proposal again. It's always seems to be hard to find something. I'm happy with them. If you let me just,
Have they given you any idea of how much price increase is gonna?
I haven't even talked to them. No.
I think they've been doing a great job for us. I would just continue with them.
Okay.
The last time they were the only ones who responded anyway.
Yeah,
So
so.
Okay.
Then you got ARPA money,
I
you
did.
got transportation aids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Recycling, I don't know if that was this. Yeah.
Okay,
Momentarily.
next item is public concerns, public's opportunity to speak to town board about any subject that's not a specific agenda item. Yes, sir.
My name is Young Park, and this is my wife Rebecca. We do have a concern of one of our neighbors. We reside at 4592 Violets Road, and we have two concerns with our neighbors at 4588 Violets Road. They have installed a fence on our property, and I don't know if that's a civil matter, but it's on our property, so I don't know what to do about it. Maybe you have some suggestions.
So would that be civil?
It certainly would be a civil matter, so you can contact the small claims court in Dane County. Does the town require fence permits?
Just for underground.
Yeah, then unfortunately, then there's no regulation.
Yeah, we didn't know that, yeah.
But yeah, if you're confident they're on your land, then, and they're not gonna remove it, small claims court would be the appropriate.
Our second concern is that our neighbors also have a above-ground swimming pool. And there's no fencing to prevent any of our children from possibly climbing into their pool and drowning.
If it's an above pool and it's 4 feet.
I have the
ordinance.
the ordinances here. It says above ground swimming pool should be considered in compliance with this ordinance when all of the following apply. The sides of such pool extend at least 4 feet above the ground. The pool is located no closer than 3 feet to any structure or embankment. All access points are provided with a barrier and or gate and a gate as defined in 12.6.1A and C.
Unless the access is removed, right?
Well, all barriers shall be designed, erected, and maintained so that any opening shall not allow the passage of a 4-inch diameter object.
So which of those things do you feel that they aren't in compliance with?
All of them.
There's no fencing or barrier around their pool, and it says that that's necessary in order for the above ground pool to be compliant.
It has to, if the pool sides are 4 feet high themselves, that makes that part compliant. So that part, as long as it's, the sides of the pool are at least 4
Correct,
feet.
but it also states that all of the following have to apply.
Right, so that's what I was asking, which one of those other ones are not in compliance?
I thought you had a fence between your two houses.
It's a privacy fence. There's
Just a
gapping
privacy
between
fence,
them.
yeah.
It's not a fenced-in pool.
You can go through that fence?
Yes.
There,
You
yeah,
can go
right where
around
their,
it, you
actually, right where their pool is, there is no fencing between our properties.
It's a person with their-
I didn't think you needed a fence if it was 4
Hi,
feet.
so I am the neighbor that they're talking about at 4588 Vilas, and that fence is actually theirs. That was Mr. and Mrs. Peterson's fence. That fence has not been taken care of since they have moved in. So my husband and I had paid to repanel that siding from large nails. The reason why there is no continuation of the fence is due to the previous owners, as well as there is a rotting tree behind the fence that is not taken care of behind the pool. So at that point, this fence is not mine. But when people move in and they do not take care of their property,
So we
there
can
are
take it
things,
down. is what you're
there
saying.
are things that we have done.
If the
to
fence is
pay
on
for
your
things.
property.
Yeah, we
you
can take it down. Okay.
So you can take it down and then I can look at your nasty yard because you don't cut trees. You don't clean up your weeds. You don't do anything.
But the privacy paneling that you attach to our fence, we can take down as well then, since it's on our property.
Well, then you can also issue me back then $650 to repanel that fence.
Okay, well, good luck with that.
That's,
When the shooting match, so,
Yeah, that's,
between the two landowners.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's nothing to do with you guys.
Okay,
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Thank you.
But I think as far as anywhere in the country, I believe if you erect a pool, you have to have fencing around your pool.
Yeah, that's not accurate in Wisconsin.
That's not telling kind of true.
Some municipalities do require, it, but it's at the local
the
level.
wording in this ordinance is confusing them because it says that all of the following need to apply in order for it to be in
Yeah,
compliance.
that's what we're
So
confused.
Yeah,
that's confusing. So could you clarify that then?
sure. So if you have a 4-foot above ground pool,
Okay,
that's effectively a 4-foot fence. You know what I mean? So we allow an exception for above ground
Okay.
pools, as long as they're at least 4 feet, subject to the conditions you listed. If any of those conditions are in effect, then the 4-foot exception does not apply. Then they need a fence in addition to a 4-foot above ground pool.
Okay.
So I pulled the ordinance up here. So as long, if the sides are 4 feet tall at every point, and it's at least 3 feet away from every structure and embankment, and they have a gate on all access points, and,
gate.
They do not.
okay, so that's what I was getting at is,
There's no gate.
yeah, but if they have,
Where's
if
the
they have
access
a ladder,
The ladder.
that's all that counts as the gate.
And the ladder is there. The ladder is, yes.
Correct. If the ladder is totally removed when it's not in use, that would effectively.
So now we're both shooting each other in the foot now. They were here last week, no, you're here
Well,
Stay
we're
there
just
and
trying
do
to
it
find out what's going on. We're,
Right.
Trying to find out what's going on. The other issue at hand is, we've talked about this, is that we also paid to have your trees cleaned up. Because your trees are, your yard, it's not manageable. It's not taken care of. We've cleaned up, I have receipts for the trees. We have reasoning with American Family with the
I
trees.
don't know what that has to do with the committee here.
That's later on in the agenda.
Yep.
Any other public concerns?
I want to publicly thank Dan Dreesen and his staff, Dan and Justin, for the excellent job they're doing, trying to control wild parsnip.
What, you got some in your yard?
No,
No,
it's
just
on
kidding.
the road.
On the
That's-
road, right
There are
away.
most roads in the state of Wisconsin.
How's the
are
mustard,
not
how's the
well,
mustard weed?
Getting mowed too.
so.
How the dandelions doing?
No mold restrictions?
Any road right of way permits?
Got two.
I'll do Vilas first. Vilas by Coffee Town, they're gonna do for 2667 Coffee Town Road. They're gonna do-
Is that the big house? That's
So one step back in the country.
Very small, isn't it?
no, that one's on Vilas.
And then 2196 Wooded Ridge Trail, New Gas Service.
Service.
Kennedy Hills. That first one, on Vilas, it was replacing existing. Roundabout.
Motion to approve the right-of-way permits for Wisconsin Power and Light and Alliant for Wooded Ridge Trail and Coffee Town as presented.
Second.
It's Vilas.
Vilas, okay.
Probably Adams.
Motion by Anders, second by Williams to approve 2 road right of way permits for Alliant Energy and Wisconsin Power and Light as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item, discuss and consider adoption of ordinance 2022-7-05, adopting an update to the 2015 comprehensive plan. And include the changes. If, with the changes that the plan commission would have recommended to us. Okay. We want to include that. And that the map is the 629 map. Which is stated there.
And maybe your motion should also note the changes that were in the plan commission's motion tonight.
The quarter mile thing and the acres to miles and take out village and make it the town.
I move approval of ordinance 2022-7-5 with the plan commission recommendations being incorporated into that plan. Did I say it that way?
Motion by Fonger,
Second.
second by
Motion by me,
Williams.
Play.
Or play.
Thank you very much.
I'm always thinking of you,
Yeah,
Mike.
I know.
Wow. Motion by
You're just
Dupuis,
waiting, aren't you?
second by Williams, to approve ordinance 2022-7-05 and with the recommendations from the plan commission. Discussion.
And remove.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Consider Consideration of a revised site plan for 3447 North Star Road Condo Unit 2 and 3.
Did I forget to put that in your packet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Come on up, Paul.
Have you guys been?
Oh,
Just
just
fancy.
Great to be back.
Fancy.
Where that one, 'cause I know I printed it. So we had three things. First of all was a memo here stating that Roger Lane from Dane County has requested an updated site approval before he will issue a zoning permit for the project. Listed here are the changes to the approved site plan. Correction of buildings 4, 6, 8 dimensions from 182 by 60 to 180 by 60, a 2-foot reduction. Addition of parking stalls, including ADA. Amended deed restriction has been filed, limiting the total employee population to 10 at any one time, per Hans Hilbert from Dane County, to reduce the minimum stall requirement by 25%. Addition of gravel driveways between buildings for fire department access, and widening of the property access driveway from 20 feet to 24 feet, the Dane County requirement. So here is the actual, I need to share the screen here. Here is the new site plan. So I don't know if you want me to quick print these for you guys.
You guys decide if you want copies. I'm gonna walk up to the screen and look.
So the buildings are, those few buildings are 180 feet instead of 182. Just
That was an error. That was an error on our part. That was not an adjustment. We discussed that, but
How many stalls are in the parking that was added?
enough to meet the Dane County requirements. Minus, I'm sorry, I don't have it. It's 1 for 2,000 square feet minus 25%.
Thank you.
6 up through there, 3, 3, and here there's 8. 20 more. You have to designate where you put the ADA stalls. So
And it's designated on the site plan.
looks right.
Okay, and then he also has deed restriction. Unit 3 and unit 2. Lot 1, certified survey map 15119, recorded in the Office of Registered Deeds of Dane County, Wisconsin on May 6, 2019, and volume 107 of certified survey maps, pages 94, 97. Now 4, the developer agrees to the following additional deed restriction on the property. All other restrictions listed on the May 18, 22 deed restriction, which is incorporated herein by reference, as we set forth at length, remain the same. The restriction is the developer shall restrict the number of employees working on the above described lands to a maximum of 10. So this would still need to be supported.
Yeah.
But that's what you're proposing as a deed restriction.
Okay.
And so I did get confirmation from Sarah Johnson today that if you approve what's in front of you tonight, then they will feel that the town has approved everything that you need to, and they can move on.
Okay.
Here's a 9-ball.
Second.
Motion by Williams, second by Anders to approve the revised site plan as presented tonight.
Do you want to add any restriction that goes with it?
Well, yeah. Site plan and the deed restriction.
Just for clarity, because I don't know that I've seen that version. I mean, that reads as though 10 employees, so not 20 half-time employees.
Right.
That's what your intent is, but.
And that was what Dane County had asked of us to meet. That was the technical document that they needed to reduce the parking stall requirement from 1 per 2,000 minus 25%. So, and we're not even close, maybe 4 or 5 at most in the entire, as we have it, as long, in the way we have our business plan all set up, that number of 10
is fine. Okay. I just didn't want you getting in, boxed in if you were going.
Yeah, no, we're just following their lead.
Okay. On the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion carried.
Thanks, folks. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I hope not to bug you. I'm trying.
Next item, discuss and consider approval of sign for Copart Building at 3100 US Highway 12 and 18. Copart's.
They're online.
The sign's not going to be lit, correct?
No, not according to this.
I just wanted to know. So you're trying to speak, but we can't hear him.
Is he muted?
I am not muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're not hearing either one of you. Just make sure the settings are on. All right, let's see if we can hear him now. Yeah. Steve or Mary, are you trying to talk?
I'm here, but I haven't been trying to talk.
Hold on.
Just listening.
There we go.
Okay. So my question was that just to guarantee that it's not going to be lit.
Correct.
I don't know if you can see the road anyway with their high fence.
Yeah. I'm just concerned. Are you having your address on the sign?
Yes.
Is your address going to change with your new access?
That I really don't know anything about. I'm just with La Crosse Sign Group. We're just going to be installing the sign.
Okay.
That address is wrong. Anyway.
Yeah.
That zip code is for McFarland and not Cottage Grove. Just so you know.
Okay, I can let National Sign know. They're the ones that are actually contracted with this.
You have to have the address printed on there right now.
Do we need to have that printed on there right now? I don't
Yeah,
think so. I think that's something that could be added.
No, I guess I'm just saying that you should probably remove the US Highway 12 and 18. And
Okay.
replace that with Ludd's Lane and AB. It's
Okay.
my understanding from DOT that they're going to extend Ludd's Lane to your building by the end of October this year and close off 12 and 18 access. So I don't know what that does to your address.
Okay. I can let them know that.
Be aware of.
Okay, I appreciate that.
This is Steve with National Sign. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. I figured I'd try a different way. So I've heard it as well. And we will meet with Copart and confirm their address, but that's certainly something we'll update.
Okay. Any questions on the sign?
I'd move approval of the
Second.
request.
Motion by
Wow.
Anders, second by Monger to approve the sign that's attached to the building as presented. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Great, thank you
Thank you all
guys.
for your time.
Next item, discuss, consider town attorney's advice about possibly revising 11.9 and 11.10 of the town code, property maintenance and enforcement.
If you read the notes in the margin, you saw that recommendation as far as who should enforce it. I did hear from our building inspector today that general does do that for other municipalities. Obviously, it's, they have to be paid for it. Right now, their only pay is cuts from the building permits, so there would be fees, but it seems like that would be a possibility.
I would agree, and I would just ask them for a schedule.
Yeah.
As to
Or
what-
contract amendment or whatever
Yeah.
it takes to get them able to do that.
Yeah, they would be far better at doing it.
I work with them in a couple other communities on property maintenance. They do a fine job.
Questions?
Chris, is this due to the ordinances?
Pardon?
This is due to ordinances
Yes,
of property?
This is,
property maintenance.
this is potential revisions to the property maintenance ordinance. that
Okay.
they're looking at.
Okay.
Basically based on your request.
Bill, where you talk about a inspection warrant is necessary to enter, how hard are those to get and cost?
Yeah, they're fairly easy. You can get them from the municipal court. Generally is all we need is, I prepare a 2-page affidavit, basically for somebody, a neighbor, whomever, to say, I have a reason to believe this property is in violation of the ordinance. Our building inspector signs the affidavit as well, saying they asked for permission to enter and were denied. And then the municipal court has the authority to grant the warrants. In my experience, they always grant them. It's a, from a legal expense side, $200-300.
Okay.
So
Curious
this-
as
so-
to that process.
So would this be in the Nundle Heights area?
This would be the whole town.
Okay, okay, I see. Okay. Okay.
And let's see, in A2, where you're talking about vehicles, they remain at that location without being moved for no longer than 9 consecutive months. What's the definition of a vehicle?
Vehicle is defined in the motor vehicle code. So it would be a motorized vehicle intended for
Any
propulsion.
motorized vehicle.
So that would include, tractors, ATVs, RVs.
Anything with a motor.
Motorcycles, yeah, it would not include trailers, sort of thing.
Okay.
Would this be cleanup as well? Like, so I'm at like for trees and brush and weeds and.
Yes, ma'am. There's a series of, I can give you this copy if you'd like. There's a
Okay.
series of provisions
That would be great.
related to all kinds of
Okay,
stuff.
because I know we've had 4 other people complain to our neighborhood as well. And so I know this couple here, they are having an issue with some neighbors down their road as well, with trees and brush and
you know, they've been warned and given things, and we're just making sure that whether people don't clean up their properties, then we're hoping the township can do that, or.
Yeah, I always caution, every community faces this.
Yeah.
And I always caution people, there's only so much the government can do, because so much of this property maintenance stuff is, at its heart, it's aesthetics.
Right.
You know, you say it's a pile of junk, they say it's, you know, carefully cultivated whatever garden, and it's the eye of the beholder thing. So as a government, we can only act on things that are illegal, violate our code.
Sure.
If they don't violate our code, it's America, they can do what they wish with their property, as long as they're not harming other people. So that there's only so much we can do, which is why a lot of people do buy land in deed restricted subdivisions. You know, because then they're not stuck like the government. They can enforce their covenants all they want.
So how is it that in the village, things are not put up with, but in the township, things have more leniency? Like for them, for where they live, the home next to them, you know, you can't really find the house. I mean, it's just, it's pretty bad.
It's a jungle.
And so that's why they're here tonight, because, you know, they've been dealing with it for years. And like, I've lived in Nundle Heights for 48 years. And we're expecting people to clean their trees and clean up their property and cut weeds and do their part. Because if, you know, it's not a car dealership, it's not a campground, it's not a farmette, it's not a farm. If you want to farm and you want to live like that, but this is residential area.
Yeah, but you
And
don't wait for 5 or 6 years before you come here about it.
Right. Well,
Or
like
10 years.
Yeah, I mean, like for these guys, you know, I guess they've come talk with you many times. I don't know. I know that.
I talked to Chairman Hampton many times about our neighbor.
I don't know which house that is. The black one?
We live at 4535 Bonnie Avenue. And it's the next house over, which is 4537.
Is that the big 2-story house with the black?
It's not two-story. It's
And I think
split
it's,
level.
I think it's,
Or,
yeah.
yeah.
What's gonna happen if we want to sell our property?
Well, that's the other thing.
Big.
That's the other thing,
Yeah, but-
that I've actually, you know, I've talked to real estate agents and, you know, people who don't take care of their lot, you're losing, you know, 10 to 20% of income when you sell your home. And that's a big issue for Nundle Heights as well, because the majority of people really truly take good care of their property, but it has to be a priority. You
Yeah,
can't just move into a neighborhood and just dump on it and think that's okay.
I understand, but again, as a government though, there's constitutional limitations to what we can do.
Sure.
I think the intent tonight is to somewhat beef up and make clear our code with respect to property maintenance.
Well, they can't be enforced then, for people to clean up their messes.
The one thing is the Cornrear area.
Yes.
And so you mentioned the village. I mean, could it be that the village is more likely to still have active homeowners associations? And those owners
sure they do,
maybe
yeah.
Not the village itself. I mean, I don't know if you know if the enforcement at the village is coming from the village of Cottage Grove, or is it homeowners association?
I believe from both sides.
So what does it take? Is it possible for an old neighborhood to form a homeowners association?
Yeah, it's difficult because every existing owner has to agree to it. And rarely do you get unanimity. That's why you do it when the developer is developing, because one person can blanket it, set it up.
So you're saying nothing can be enforced to these problems that we have with
No. We're trying to make
There
it.
has to be
enforceable.
some reasonableness here.
Yeah.
Because they don't trim your yard like you do, and you do a very nice job. Because they don't trim around their camper. I mean.
No, wait a minute.
Excuse me 1 second. Let me finish, please, okay? I'm talking, I didn't know about.
You're nitpicking.
I am nitpicking because they are nitpicking, okay? Now listen, with regards to trimming around the camper or a trailer that's parked in the yard, okay, because they choose not to. I wasn't necessarily in agreement back in May when the grass was way high, but they took a lawnmower and knocked it down. But trimming the trees to the extent that somebody else wants them to be trimmed to, if you come over to my subdivision, the entire subdivision is overgrown. There are some houses you can't see from the street. Okay, because that's the way the subdivision is. All right, and because that subdivision is that way, should we enforce her ideas of what a yard should look like over in my subdivision?
Would you want to live next door to that?
What, to the overgrown? I don't have a choice. That's the way it is.
Why is it that way?
Because people choose to live in a wooded area.
This is
wooded.
But it's not what
This
this is
is not- this isn't-
residential.
This isn't a postage stamp village lot that has everybody looking like the same as everybody else down the street.
The weeds and the brush.
Okay,
And
the question is before the town board, are you happy with the advice he is giving us on this ordinance? Other than, the only thing I've heard is that replace the clerk and board with the building inspector.
Apparently there isn't one.
Is that the only change you would like them to make and then have that come back to
There's
us
no reason to go. We're still talking about it.
for a public hearing and adoption of the ordinance
Yes, yes,
at our next meeting?
Yes.
yes.
And
When you're seeing.
someone wants, you want to make that motion?
Yes.
Motion by Duclay,
Second.
second by Williams, to have the attorney make the changes to deleting the town board and clerk and insert that the building inspector will be the one doing these and give us a clean copy for a public hearing and possible adoption at the July 18th meeting.
So what we're trying to set up here is that the building inspector, when he's told to go there and look at the property, will go by the ordinance and say, hey, you're either good or you got to straighten that up. You got to do this, you got to do that, and so on and so forth. Our other ordinance was just a little bit light on that. So that's what we're trying to do now.
Because I mean, the biggest issue too for, for them, and there are 3 other neighbors in the neighborhood as well, and myself, is that we're seeing more rodents. We're seeing more
You
rodents.
live across
because
the
they
street
can-
from 100 acres of farm field.
No.
Yes,
You don't?
I've lived here for almost 20 years, but something has changed. And the thing is when we had the inspection come out, they said, you're gonna have more rodents and more varmints because when there's bushes and wooded area around people's properties, if it's not taken care of, then it's gonna wreak havoc on your home. And I do look at their property and then, I mean, it's atrocious.
The basis of this ordinance is public health and safety. So whoever is enforcing it, that would be, if that's true, that would be a public health and safety issue. But it would have to be established that it was a public health and safety issue to be enforceable, I guess is the way I would understand it.
It's an excellent point, Kim. I mean, if there's truly a rodent problem, this code would prohibit that and it could be enforced. But keep in mind, if we issue tickets for that and the other side pleads not guilty, they're entitled to a trial in front of the judge. And it's then our town's burden to prove that those rodents are coming from X location. And a lot of that stuff, you sort of think it, you sort of guess it, you sort of know it. It's a different than proving it in a court of law. So I just want to make sure everybody's expectations are sort of in line with kind of reality. There's only so much we can do.
On the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carried. So we'll have this back on the 18th in a public hearing. Next item, consideration of enforcement of 11.09 of Town Code regarding maintenance and appearance of land at 4592 Vilas Road, 2979 County Road BB and 2983 County Road BB.
Motion to table till we get the ordinance in place.
Second.
Motion by Anders, second by Duplay to table until,
So if you were to adopt that ordinance, it doesn't go fully on like it's supposed to. So you couldn't,
Correct.
you couldn't enforce that ordinance the same night you adopted, but you
No.
could have.
You what?
right.
Okay.
So can't but our ordinance right now isn't good enough.
No.
I mean,
It's a totally different process to enforce it. It's gonna send you down a road that it's gonna take a long time anyway, so.
Yeah.
okay.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item, consider adoption of resolution 2022-7-5A, adopting Town of Cottage Grove Annex to the Dane County National Hazard Mitigation Plan.
And I think you've seen the copies of the stuff that we worked on with Dane County. Now, this is coming back from Dane County as part of the document that will go forward to the state and then to the federal government. So it's just started saying, hey, yeah, it's correct. Now we're moving forward.
We've become part of the Dane County plan.
This will be in the SOP for the town.
Yeah. Questions, comments, motions?
Go ahead, Mike.
So I make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Ponder, second by Anders to approve Town Board Resolution 2022-5 or -7-5A. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Two copies of A. Another copy of B.
B is not numbered, but it's the
Oh,
lone one.
okay.
Consider adoption of resolution 2022-7-5B, authorizing the borrowing of $1,503,760, providing for the issuance and sale of general obligation promissory note, therefore, and levying a tax in connection therewith. This was tabled from the June 6th meeting, because you were gone.
Okay, I'm back.
You're back. So is there a motion?
I will move approval.
Speaking,
I will move approval.
Second.
Motion by Williams, second by Duplay. This resolution will be B
Yes.
0705 E 2022. Discussion on the motion.
again, I'm gonna say this for the third or fourth time. It is amazing that we're borrowing $500,000 for something we don't even have a plan for, just because we may have a plan for it instead of having something that we're really gonna use it for. It makes no sense, and then we're gonna tax everybody for it, and it's ridiculous. And why anybody here thinks this is a good idea, I'm just flabbergasted. The $1 million, not a question. There's things we gotta do here, and it's great, but this makes no sense.
It is in the loan that it doesn't need to be taken out.
Right.
So in the end, if it doesn't happen, our payments will go down. We won't take the money and it's done. So it is in there.
And we won't be paying interest on it.
No, we won't pay interest until we take the money out.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carried, 3-2. H, consideration of request from Cottage Grove Chamber of Commerce for monetary support of the commercial leakage study.
I don't know how much I believe that. Full study.
I think we've studied this.
I don't know how much it concerns the town of Cottage Grove.
Well, they did one, and, you know,
I mean, it's just, it's all about stopping for them to retain their business. I don't care about their business. I care more about money.
So
Same here.
are you making a motion?
To deny that we give any
Money
monetary
to the-
support to the Cottage Grove leakage study.
Motion by Dupree, second by Fonger, to not support the commercial leakage study. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Consideration of waiver of conflict of interest for Axley Wilson LLP's continued representation of a town court defendant in all matters unrelated to the town of Cottage Grove, now and in the future. So this person has been a client before we were,
And is a current client.
and a current client, and you will represent the town, and somebody else from the firm would represent her, I assume.
Correct. She's a defendant in Muni Court. As you know, I prosecute for the town. We can't represent both sides. If you consent to this and she consents to it, then I would continue to represent the town. I would prosecute her in this case. She could still use her Axley lawyer for unrelated things, but not this case.
I would move approval.
Second.
Motion by Williams, second by Duplay to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. If I could go back to borrowing resolution for a question for Bill. If we bill the road, can we charge that back to the developer if and when it ever develops? The costs of putting it in.
This is a road you're building now, and
Probably not until next year. We have the engineer doing work on it, see if we can get approval from the county and to put it through or to the end of the county's right of way.
yeah, we would have to be able to show through a traffic impact analysis that the expenditure, that the road improvements are necessitated by this development. I think that would be difficult if the development hasn't been proposed yet.
No, but when development does happen, it gives them access.
They don't have access right now.
There is no. What was a farm?
See, I'm saying
So they
that we
only
should
had
not,
farm access. So when it comes in and they want to commercial buildings, 1, 2, I don't know how many, can we recoup any of that money from that development for building that?
I think to do that, we would need to assess the costs now, and we could defer those assessments until later development.
Okay,
I don't think I could have it in this loan either, because this is being levied to, it's gonna be an art levy. And how are you gonna give the residents their money back if you're gonna tax them on it through this loan?
see, I'm saying this is a developer's issue, not ours. They build this access when they decide to develop the land, rather than us spending $500,000 on something that we may have to screw around trying to get recouped in the future. I don't think it's fair to the taxpayer. And that's where that $500,000 that I just discussed came up.
Yeah, I understand, Mike. That's certainly logical. I will say a lot of communities do front roads to spawn development and encourage development. So it's not unusual what's being proposed, but your point's well taken, obviously, that you could wait too until the developer comes.
So we got the North Star already, see? So if it gets to the point we need that road, you can't tell me a developer is not gonna do this when it's needed.
It just makes development more likely to occur if
Because
it's
the
already
Kennedy
done.
area, he had to pay all the expenses on the corner of Kennedy Road. And we didn't help that guy.
I think this is, for tonight, this is just a borrowing authorization.
Yeah.
I think you can certainly pass this. You can later on decide if and when you're going to build the road. And if so, if you're going to assess the costs to the property.
Okay. Moving to Public Works Department.
Well, I saw road work started. Wolf paved 3 of our roads already. We got culverts delivered and they'll be put in, hopefully some of them this week yet. Other than that, not too much exciting besides storms and cleanup.
Enough of that.
Man.
Okay. Clerk's office update.
Well, this is our new deputy clerk, Amber. Today. We're barraging her with everything.
I like her, she likes me, but I know that'll change.
She's gonna be great. That's my big news.
Okay, board reports and communications. Our bridges, the Pemright Bridge, they expect to be driving the pilings late this week. Uphoff, they expect the steel workers that lay the steel. Steel workers are supposed to be there, I think, Thursday. They thought they might pour cement at Uphoff on Friday.
Yeah.
Depending on the weather.
All the rebars going in.
Yeah. And there was a email today from Dane County Towns Association. They're having a meeting on 7/28 at Town of Dunn. So we'll have to put that on the next agenda to see who's going to attend. And I think that's all I had.
Can I ask a question about the bridges and the pilings and this? How have they been impacted by the shortage of steel and the cost increases? Do we have any kind of numbers on that at this time?
We have a set contract price.
We do?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
Yes.
That was set earlier this year when the state accepted the bids.
All right.
So.
Okay.
That worked to our
That's-
advantage.
Yes, yes. That's some of the best news I've heard today.
And we got the product. So everything is on hand. So.
Thank you.
No committee meetings. For that, the engine 3 that we had on Wisconsin surplus, it was listed for $19,999, I think. The bid was $50 less than what we asked. I told him, let it go. Yeah, $50.
We can take up past the hat.
Yeah,
I can't afford that.
To wait again and then try to list it again, I didn't think it for $50 it wasn't worth it. We'll probably be hearing more about our truck for our anchor. That production has moved from Mexico to Ohio, and possible impact on the price of the truck, which we may want Bill to take a look at some point, but we'll see what they actually give us. So anyway, now you can.
I move we adjourn.
Motion by Duplay, second by Williams for adjournment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Motion carried.
Aren't you glad you did?